Morning, everyone. You're just in time, Ratnam. We're just starting. So yeah, welcome back to our bi-weekly session where we talk about the latest and greatest in AI technologies as part of our Train the Trainer series. It happens every 2 weeks. It's just that for this month, this is our first session. Second session happens on the 30th. So do keep a lookout. But today I thought we're gonna change a little bit. Uh, in the how heavy our topics are because for the past 2 months we've been talking about DeepSeek and what does it mean to run it locally and comparing it between Copilot and ChatGPT. How is it better? What's this think deeper function, right? If you guys checked last time's videos or recordings, it is on our YouTube channel. But for today, I do want to spend some collaborative time with you guys see how we can use AI in doing projects from in a zero to hero sort of sense, right? So from scratch, from pretty much nothing, I can use all these AI tools, even the simplest ones, right? Today, I think we'll just take a look into using Copilot in helping our project kick off. And so today, I'm Greg. If you haven't gotten to know me, and today I'm joined with Ian, who will be sharing some of our articles later. I don't think Noel is able to join us today, but yep, we'll get started real quick. And so, yeah, as I was saying last time, last month in our previous session, we did touch a bit on DeepSeek. We saw how it's able to perform very differently in a logical sense and an ethical sense, right? It's able to put in all these very in-depth answers compared to, its competitors, to say. But when we are talking about others more cultural contexts, like geographically, historically, because the tool is made in China, so it is subject to quite some censorship. So, I do urge you to try it out or take a look at some of our demos. We do upload it on YouTube. And we also talk a little bit on running DeepSeek locally. We are not able to showcase it because I don't think we have the hardware to be running it anywhere. But yeah, it is possible to be running DeepSeek offline pretty much because I know some people are a little bit terrified. What if these AI models are taking my data and retraining their LLMs with it, or what if these AI models are selling my data? So if DeepSeek's running offline, that's not gonna happen, right? So it is a good alternative for people who are curious about those sort of issues. But for now, I do want to jumpstart a little bit. I've got a little thing. Uh, I'm gonna show you a few images. We're gonna have a little bit of an icebreaker. Which pictures are real? Which pictures are AI? Yesterday I had a session, and I picked up some of the pictures that really confuse people on whether or not they're real. And later on, I'm gonna have Ian share some articles with us. Just the latest and greatest in our AI technologies, which might surprise you. We'll see about that. And going into our March theme of going from zero to hero, I do want to introduce this style of prompting called care. Right? I don't know if anybody heard of it before. It's a bit similar to SMART goals. If anybody's also listened to learned about SMART goals, I learned about it of my business classes back in university. But it's nice to use these sort of like templates, these sort of frameworks to kick off your prompting so that they're more accurate, they're more specific, right? And we're gonna use that framework to put in our first prompts into our AI classes. Oh yeah, which is I'm jumping the gun here, but the collaborative work we're going to do later is trying to create our first AI class, which is coming up later soon. So I do need all your help in with all your creative input, right? If we have time later, I do want to show this thing called 11 Labs, which is a very popular tool if you've been around on YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, even TikTok, right? People use this tool, 11 Labs, to do the voiceover for their videos. And so, people who are maybe not very confident to be in front of camera or, they're sick as hell, so they can't be recording their voices. Uh, this is the perfect solution, but I'll show you later if I have some time. But I also have a demo today. I don't know if anybody saw my little message when posting up about the Microsoft Teams link for this session, but one of our guests today who I don't think is able to make it. Let me see. Yeah, Lorraine's not here, but she's recorded a demo for us on how to make your portraits, with the Studio Ghibli theming going on, right? I'm pretty sure you've seen a lot of it in your social media, but maybe you're not sure how to do it. So, you know what? This is the right place to learn about it. But to get us started, hey, so I'll go one of the pictures. There was a bit of a doozy yesterday when I was testing people out, which picture is AI and which picture is real. Anybody got any thoughts? Because they both look kind of real to me, isn't it? I feel like it's a little bit scary. Yeah. Put your answers in the comment section or put it in, unmute yourself and say something. It's fine to me. But yeah, it's a little bit scary on how realistic AI is going to be, right? I had a question yesterday. It's like, how do you differentiate between the two? And I was telling them, by the naked eye alone, I don't know if it's possible, right? You might have to look at the metadata of the images. You might have to zoom in very closely and see if the pixels are running correctly. It takes quite a bit of forensic work, This is why when, a lot of these AI technologies are used for bad stuff like deepfakes, it's hard to tell, right? How do you disprove that something isn't real, right? Compared to, in the past, our issues have been how to disprove that something is, the other way around, pretty much. So, anyone got anything? Ian, what do you think? Are you there? I can't hear you, man. I know you're unmuted though.
He's shy.
Hello?
Hey, Ian.
Okay.
Do you think the left one is real? Or do you think the right one is real?
I think the right one is real.
Is it? Oh,
Not sure.
let me see. I can't remember what's the answer to this one. Where are you, Ranam? Any thoughts?
Both, I think, is not real.
Oh, they're both not real. Okay. That's a possibility. Okay, let's take a
Okay.
look. Oh, the left one's real, man. So it's kind of hard to tell, right? They're both like Niagara Falls, that I know. They've both got boats on them. They've got waves. They got these steam mists. They've got the skies. But I think the second one, the skies look more realistic than the left one, isn't it? The left one's just a bunch of clouds, but the right one's like a clear overcast, very nice sunny day. The left one's like, you would have think that these clouds are like cloned by the AI, so they're just like using a stamp tool and making a pattern, right? That's why it looks kind of fake, but turns out it's real. So it's really hard to tell, even if you think something is fake, it could be real. You don't know how nature works, which is the thing, right? So let me go on to my second picture, which is my last picture. That was giving people a bit of a doozy. How about this one? What do you guys think? Aurora Borealis. Any thoughts? This one's got quite a nice reflection going on, I think. This one doesn't. It's a bit more blurry towards the bottom, but it's got a nicer like wave going on up here. What do you think, Ian? The left one or the right one?
Wow.
Yeah,
Actually gotten
difficult.
very hard now.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
used to judge AI art based on how clean it looked. Now when both pictures look so clean, it's hard to tell.
yeah, a comment I had yesterday is that when the picture looks too clean, it's actually AI. I don't know
Yeah,
how.
but when both of them are clean, then like which one is the AI?
That is true. That is true. Yeah, they're both like very clean. Like the stars look right for to begin with. It's just that maybe the left has more light pollution, so it's a bit more blurry. But I don't know. It's hard. But if you have to guess, which one do you think it is?
I think the second one's real.
Second one's real. Okay. Anybody got anything? Second one, huh? Yeah, it could be possible. I would have thought it's the first one because of the reflections, but I don't know.
I
I
don't
can't
know, the
remember.
mountain looks a bit stiff for me.
Wait, one question.
Yeah.
Because I know the answer already. I just want to ask. This
Yeah.
this 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 picture, if let's say it's AI, right?
Yeah.
Is it 100%? you type something and then it generate out this picture, or in fact you mean you buy AI to touch up it?
No. It's
It's
100% AI.
100%
Yeah.
generated, right?
Yeah. Not touch up, no Photoshop, no Illustrator, no nothing. Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is made by DAL-E, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Okay.
But okay, I think we are thinking it's the second one, huh? Or at least you think it's the second one, Ian. But let's see. It is the second one, yeah.
Yeah,
People thought it was the first one.
because the first one, I see the mountain, it looks very stiff.
How
And it
so
doesn't
though?
look, I don't know, because like the left side of the mountain, it doesn't look as natural compared to like a normal mountain.
I guess so. It's not like, maybe it's a bit more snowy than the right here. The right side,
Possibly.
yeah, the right side is like, it's more of a rocky patch.
I mean,
But
a
the
lot
left
of my
side is
friends
so,
are also artists, so
but they're not
I
AI, are
think
they, sorry?
no, they're not. They're real artists, so I think they trained me a bit to try and detect AI
Oh,
art,
man. I
not to
mean,
like it on Twitter.
yeah, it feels so bad when you've spent like your blood and soul like making all these pictures and then somebody accuses it it's AI. I know that's like a big thing right now I see on Twitter. It's like, no, I have got my work in progress. Here are my Illustrator files. You can see that, they're my line arts, my coloring or whatever, so it's not AI art. But without looking at all these like specific metadata, it's difficult to tell if it's AI or not, right? Because it's gotten just so good. So to lead off with this, so on the topic of making your own images using AI, you don't have to touch DALL-E, which was the the engine that was running all those AI pictures earlier. But I do have a demo today from Laureen, who's not able to join us today. She's a little bit sick, but she's been graceful enough to be sharing a recording. Let me see if I can find it. It's on my WhatsApp. I'll reshare my screen in a little bit while I find it. Where was it? Just received it yesterday. Okay, there it is. Let me see if I can zoom in because the WhatsApp screen is a bit small. Okay, let's see. Here we go. Is this showing up right? Is this showing up right, Ian?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Just my thing's a bit cut off. Okay. Okay, let's see. So yeah, the first thing I think you do is just you upload a picture, right? I think a portrait of yourself. I actually tried doing this on like Copilot, but one thing about Copilot is that it doesn't like faces. It blurs out your face automatically because it's got that whole like data protection thing, but I assume it's got a privacy protection thing. So it doesn't
Probably.
it doesn't do anything with your face. So I guess this is why you can only do this on ChatGPT, or at least everybody who I've been seeing doing this does it on ChatGPT. So yeah, first things first, you gotta upload a picture, and I think what Lorraine did here is that she's trying to like do this baseline, right? So you got a picture of your face with it, but you want to maybe put it in a different pose, for example, right? So I think ChatGPT is able to do that with you. So she just type in saying, create an image of this woman, I think holding a dog, holding a small dog. A small lovely dog? Well, that's it's good to be precise with your prompting. Small lovely white puppy. Yeah. So once you put that in, ChatGPT will run for a little bit, but for image generation, I think it takes a bit of time. Let me fast forward a little bit. Yeah, it takes like half a minute. So yeah, it looks good, right? ChatGPT loves to work with your faces. So I don't think it saves into its LLM nowadays, though. I think I'm not sure if it's an opt-in or opt-out system on whether or not they retrain your responses to train their LLM. But yeah, so just say that from that picture, once it's in the same chat, by the way, so you can turn that into a Ghibli image. If you don't know what Ghibli is, it's a very nice line of movies from a very specific studio, Studio Ghibli. But yeah, let it run for a little bit. And okay, let me run. I think the Ghiblifying process takes a little bit longer than, just putting in your base picture.
I heard they're losing money from doing this.
Really? You mean
Yeah.
Studio Ghibli is losing money or ChatGPT is losing money?
ChatGPT is losing money.
Oh, wow. I guess it's using a lot of processing power to make Ghibli pictures.
Yeah, their machine. I feel they're losing a lot of money from it. I saw an article regarding it.
Wow. Actually, I think I've seen something online. Somebody was memeing on them saying that, uh, ChatGPT is like producing so much more pollution, so much more energy usage just to make the Ghibli pictures.
Well, people don't see it. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, people see it as a fun thing, right? They didn't really,
yeah,
think that it's a wasteful thing. But I think it ties into one of your articles later, Ian. But
yeah.
yeah, so this is how you do it. Anybody here tried this technique before? I know it's very popular on social media. People love to turn in their profile pictures, or hey, maybe this could be a new profile picture for you, Ian. I know you've been using the same one for like years.
I don't know.
Or I can change up your AI is fun EDM picture with this.
Maybe.
Yeah, one of these days. Yeah, anybody's tried it out before? Yeah, it's kind of a new thing, right? I've never heard of this technique before until like I think 2 weeks ago. It's gotten very big. Like everybody's playing with that.
Somebody probably thought of it one day and said like, why not? See what's the result.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, surprisingly, I think people just didn't know because they thought that all these LLM models, because they have the privacy thing, it doesn't work with your face, but suddenly it does. So that's good to know. But the reason I had Lorraine record the demo with us is that, if I'm not wrong, you have a limited amount of tokens you can use in your ChatGPT to do it. So you can't do it unlimitedly every single day. I think you're like limited. I don't know if they refresh your limitations, but you can't do it indefinitely. That's for sure. So thank you so much, Lorraine, for gracing us with your your demos. But let me reshare my PowerPoint. Okay, well that's on. Oh wait, I'm still sharing it. Give me a second. Okay, there you go. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for showing us how to do different themes. It's not limited to just Ghibli, by the way. For example, I've got this picture here on the right, Mona Lisa. If you make it more like a cartoonist, a more chibi sort of art style, I'm pretty sure if you upload the Mona Lisa into ChatGPT and ask for that, it'll pop out something like this. This is something I found on somebody else's blog. But we've done a lot of examples of this in the past. It's a very neat concept. But it is still on a legally gray area on how legal it is on using other people's pictures, especially when you're using it for commercial purposes. So for now, just use it for personal use. Don't use it commercially. So we're jumping into our first line of articles today. What's this one, Ian? It's called DeepSeek and chip bans have supercharged AI innovation in China.
Well, I'm guessing the US is doing some stuff that
Yeah,
has caused China to say, well, I think everyone knows about the tariffs that the US is imposing on
that is
China.
that is true.
So
Yeah.
China has chosen the way of other methods to
But it's
earn
like, yeah, it's interesting
profit.
seeing, yeah, not even like from a tech perspective. I'm just talking from an economical perspective, how they've been like, they've been working with Japan, they've been working with South Korea, and like, all sort of stuff. And this is, of course, one of them. With I know this has been a historically like coming thing that the US has been banning China from using any of its chips, from importing any of its chips in order to use in like, because I think they are scared that they're gonna use it for military purposes. But of course, this is not military. So
Yeah.
yeah. So something I've seen related to this article in one of the points is that they mentioned that startups are now under pressure to abandon like more foundational research. So like training your LLMs, innovating like how our LLMs work, the GPT sort of technology, like just that whole bunch of foundational research, just pushing it aside for now and using it straight up for practical use, right? And
Hmm.
yeah, what do you think, Ian?
I think they're under pressure to abandon this research due to a lot of other factors as well. Like they
Yeah,
probably have pressure from, but it says here is investors prioritize practical applications, right?
that is true. That is true. Yeah.
So I'm assuming their terms of practical application is earning more money.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Because if you're like developing this technology, you're not able to use it very quickly if you don't know what to do with it. But once you get to the practicals, but of course, manpower and research time and computing time is very limited, right? It's a
Yeah.
limited resource. So they rather use it for something in the short term, making all these practical tools. DeepSeek, for example, is practical tool, is very user facing, right? It's not a theoretical research thing that only people in academia can access, and this is the sort of thing that makes money, right? And in the
Yeah.
short term, yeah, making that money is really important if you want to fund the long term, which is it makes sense. It makes sense to help you sustain it
Yeah.
over, yeah. But gonna pivot this a little bit, of course, with another quote from the article saying that, it's because monetization from just, purely selling model access, like how ChatGPT has been, right? You can access ChatGPT's I think, and use it in your, different researches, different apps and all that. But it doesn't generate that much revenue, uh, especially when we are talking about how DeepSeek has been like shaking the world, like being so cheap to even like develop. That's why it's been like making Nvidia stock prices shaken in the US stock market. And he also says that everyone else has to become more of a product company, which is just an end product, end user, more sort of like perspective, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Ian?
I think it's going to increase as the days go by.
Definitely, right? Because I was comparing this the other session, I think, to the US space race. I don't know if any of us here were born earlier than 1969, but when the US put the first man on the moon, they were like in a competition with Russia, right? Or the Soviet Union back during these days.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Soviet Union put the first guy on space. Sure, they had Yuri Gagarin, but the first guy who put like the first country to put the first person on the moon, of course, Neil Armstrong, right, 1969. So it was a very exciting technological race back in the day. But of course, after that, it led into the Cold War. So, but
I
I hope
mean,
this AI race doesn't lead into a Cold War.
the Cold War happened first, and they
Yeah,
just so happened wanted to, I don't know, fight against each other that's not involving guns.
yeah. You know what? I'm happy that they're doing it on a technological sense and they're not like shooting each other. Even right now, I'm hoping that they're not gonna use AI to shoot each other. But from some of the articles we've been covering, they have been using it for like
I don't
weapons
know.
development.
They've made AI weapons, so
Yeah, like the one article we shared with Google the other time, they're like
yeah.
opening up for use weapons development. It's like I don't know about that. But yeah, going on to our next article. So Apple using this user data and analyzing it to bolster their AI technology. What do you think about this one, Ian?
Is this legal? I'm not sure.
Well, that's the thing, right? One thing I caught from with this article is that where it is, it's somewhere here. Yeah, you see the user data, it remains on the devices, so it's not directly used. They're not feeding your user data onto their LLM, but somehow they are able to, transform this data to something that only they can read. Is that only the AI can read, and so that it won't be leaked or something like that? I'm not sure how legal it is, of course, but yeah. But I
Doesn't
don't think
sound
it's.
very legal.
I think that they're playing loose with this concept of privacy, still keeping privacy for your your local device, right? I think like countries like those in the EU, for example, with the uh, Privacy Protection Act, they're not going to be too happy with something like this. But it's not a surprise, especially free tech. I know that the saying goes that when something is free, then you are the product, right? your data is being sold, your privacy is being opened, something like that, right? But it's not surprising even in like the AI realm of technologies because we've seen it in ChatGPT, we've seen it in Copilot, we've seen it in DeepSeek, and they, I think they have an opt-out program even. So, you're automatically enrolled to be using your data to train your responses. But there is still an option to opt out, but you have to manually do it. So, but it's nothing new. I don't think so. Right? Any closing thoughts, Ian?
I mean, that means that they assume you want to opt in general.
Yeah, because they know
Yeah.
people are lazy to not look into the settings. That's the thing. So, they use people's laziness to take their data.
Which in theory they should be asking beforehand initially anyway.
Yeah, I think in the EU it's actually an opt-in program. It's like, because they know they can't run that bullshit in the EU. So,
Yeah.
it comes down to the laws protecting them, right? But that's the thing with AI technologies now, the laws are still gray. So one last thing in our thing, in the Ant Group, which is one of the biggest, I think, bigger conglomerates, they're related to Alibaba, if I'm not wrong, in China. They ramp up healthcare presence as AI doctors gain popularity in China. What this one, Ian?
I don't know. AI doctors that are AI is I can't imagine.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at, I think we shared this a little bit when we talked about AI certifications last time, but one thing that Microsoft was pushing is that having these fair practices when it comes to AI, and one of the bits was, I think, accountability. So when you're like making an AI doctor doing surgery, for example, right? Who's held accountable, right? Is it the person doing maintenance on this AI, or the person who innovates it? Or even the people setting up the environment for the AI to do its job. It's like if something goes wrong, like whose fault is it, right?
I think it's on one case it can be the surgeon won't feel guilty that like, oh, it's not
Yeah,
my hand that killed the person.
yeah.
Or like
Well, this is a video game thing. I know, Ian. Have you played Detroit?
yes, I have.
Yeah, yeah. One of the plot points in the game was
Yeah,
that
I know.
the kid died because a human surgeon couldn't operate on the kid, and they had to use an AI like
No,
Android
that's not how
surgeon.
it was. It's the doctor was high on
Hi, on
something.
drugs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they made the robot do it.
Yeah, and then the robot failed, and it was like, all these androids are, ruining everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think there will be that sort of stigma even coming into the future. So looking at this, but of course, we're not going anywhere deep to surgery level yet. I don't think AI is that good i- i- in
Quite
theory.
dangerous
Yeah, yeah,
to
it is still
even
dangerous.
ask a robot to work on you surgically.
Yeah, yeah. We still need that human touch, I think. No joke, no joke. But so far, they're just still using it for stuff like diagnosis, right? Telling you what sort of disease you have, for example. It's kind of like WebMD, that whole meme where it's like, oh, I've got a headache, I'm sneezing, I
I
put
have
my symptoms in
cancer.
WebMD, I've got cancer. So I think they're a little bit better now. I think even WebMD uses AI now, so they're
I
not gonna be haphazard with their diagnosis.
think for
But
diagnosis it's better. It lets doctors help patients faster.
yeah, because I think even the idea of having a diagnosis is that they're literally just going to use cases, right? It's like, are you pale? How's your blood pressure? How's like your bone density or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
I think, of course, AI is going to be easily using these tools. Just somebody just has to take the measurement. He puts in this algorithm. It's like, oh, that's what you're having right now. Hopefully, it's
But I
not
think it's
cancer.
still dangerous. Like you get the wrong diagnosis and I mean it still
Yeah,
happens now. Like human doctors give you the wrong diagnosis
that is
and
true.
you get the wrong medicine and it'll make you feel worse.
Yeah, but surprisingly, I think the last session we had last year, it's somewhere in our YouTube channel where I invited Forrest. Ian Forrest is one
Ah,
of our friends who's
our
actually graduating as a
doctor
doctor.
friend.
Yeah, this year, and I asked him to look into somebody I know, and these are the symptoms. What sort of diagnosis can you give, right? And he gives me this and this, and I compared it to what the AI gave, and it's like almost spot on, right? Surprisingly. So I think that diagnosis as a whole, I think AI might be able to be, up to it. Yeah. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah.
Yeah. But well, time can only tell if we can progress any further in here. But I think that's it for today for the articles. I'm gonna pop in real quick to, I actually need your help today. We're gonna do a little bit on a zero to hero project making, but what's our project today about, right? So I don't know if you know, especially for you today in Malaysia, but uh, Myanmar, the country, I think it's going through a civil war, right? Yeah, correct me, Ian, if I'm wrong.
I need to check this. Is Myanmar going through a civil war?
Are they? I don't know. I've been seeing news about it. Like they're like resistance forces. They're like shooting each other, something like that. And a lot of the nationals are actually fleeing the country. In one of the
Ah,
countries there,
it
yeah,
is apparently.
it is a civil war. Yeah, so there's a
Yeah.
civil war happening right now in Myanmar, and a lot of the refugees are going to different places. Malaysia is being one of them, right? Anybody know about this?
Civil War was very long time, very, very long time. It's going
Yeah.
on and on and on and off, on, off, on. But now it is subdued a bit because of the big earthquake.
Yeah, a lot of casualties I've heard, right? So something that's new coming to us right now, as in me and a bunch of, I think Noel, yeah, Noel is spearheading this, but uh, we've been given the opportunity to be teaching some of these AI tools and helping these Myanmaran refugees get back into the workplace, right? And giving them this extra oomph, this extra boost on getting them more employable. So that's what we are trying to do, since they are a little bit of they are legally gray area in Malaysia, in the sense that I've seen articles that they are not actually allowed to take part in any of the schools that are being, whether it's private or governmental in Malaysia, and they are only able to take classes that are, I think, hosted by the UN. It's called the UNHCR, which is the one presiding in Malaysia. So we are in touch with one of these UNHCR class groups, and we'll be the ones delivering this sort of content on, helping these Myanmar refugees become more productive in the workplace. So I do need your help, which I think we're going to spend the better part of the next 25 minutes, talking about this, seeing how we can use AI tools to come up with a curriculum over a few months. Maybe how do we plan our first class? Even I've got a few notes here, which I'm going to share to you, but let me see. I also do want to share you on, yeah. So, let's come with it. And then just one in the introductory class for today. Teaching AI with AI from near scratch, which is pretty much nothing, right? Okay. So I'm going to be sharing this a little bit, but let me share some of the notes we are having for the class. I have it on my notepad right now. So pretty much what we are trying to do is, you know, because they are Myanmar refugees, right? They don't really have much. We're trying to host most of the classes on smartphones, right? Okay, I'm just sharing my whole screen. So these are the notes I'm having right now. Yeah, so the tone is kind of be, similar to what we're having today. We're going to be looking into a few roles. Maybe they're going to be doing, looking into IT, looking into anti-scam and cybersecurity routes. And a lot of them, when they're returning, they're also going to be teachers, right? Maybe English teachers, computer sciences, or, maybe they'll be graphic designers or web designers, right? We don't know. We want to keep it a little bit open. Some of the applicable certifications we could be doing, AI 900, AZ 900, which is the standard one from Microsoft, right? But of course, this is the most important part. We are thinking of doing it with smartphones. So some of the tools we're thinking about, ChatGPT, Copilot, and down here, we are actually not actually thinking of telling you to learn AI from TikTok, learning AI from LinkedIn. No, we're thinking to expand their avenues and use these social media platforms as a sharing session, right? So they'll be able to put their names out there, put them on the market, pretty much, right? If anybody's got any ideas before I continue with the rest, yeah. But Yeah, so far this is what we got. We're thinking, of course, general soft skills, presentation skills, critical thinking skills, and team collaboration and managing your time for projects. Right, that's very standard. Of course, we're also thinking of doing very small assignments that they can do on their smartphones, because they don't generally have access to laptops, PC computers, right? So we want to keep it as simple as it is for them, pretty much. But for our first few lessons, we're just gonna cover this, right? An introduction, talking about what's ChatGPT, what's Copilot, what's DeepSeek, and how to use these chat-based tools to just do the simplest things, right? How to use it for translations, which we'll have a whole class for it later. And how do you do it for making pictures, making music, right? So just the very simple things. So what I do want to come up today is not much of the content. We do have quite a few bits on the content already, but let's try to open up. I like to use DeepSeek now, so I'm gonna open up DeepSeek. Where is my? Okay, here you go. My DeepSeek's over here. Let me open up a new chat. So one framework I do want to use is this one today, the CARE framework. I don't know if anybody's tried this before. So you got to give the context, the C, the action, which is the A, the result, the R, or what I think is the goal, right? You got to think about the result as the goal, and maybe an example on how do yeah how does mm-hmm. So yeah, how does one, like, for example, in the real world, somebody who has already done something like this before. So the AI has a framework to work with, instead of starting from zero, instead of risking the AI straight off path, right? So let's try this example out. So the context there that they gave me when I was looking up this care thing, the context, they're launching a new line of sustainable clothing, right? So let's try that out. I have DeepSeek here. So in our so we have care, right? So for our C context, so we are hosting a set of classes. Well, for our current one, I'm gonna just put introductory class as part of a set of classes focusing on uh, a applied AI to be used when entering the workspace. And we do want to be a little bit more specific, right? We want to know who's our target. So our target is that, to teach Myanmar refugees. Uh, yeah, as part of a 12, I think it's 12 sessions. I think, no, 10 sessions. 10 session series. And we are working on the first session. Right. So let's work with this right now. We can refine it if we need later. So second one is just action. Right. Action is, can you assist us? This is what you want the AI tool to do for you, right? After you've given the context. So over here, you've already given this example of, can you assist us in creating this targeted advertising campaign when we're talking about this sustainable clothing, right? But for us today is that we want the AI to come up with a lesson plan, actually. Creating a lesson plan for our first lesson. Uh, I spelled lesson wrong. First lesson. And if you take a look a bit on our requirements, we do want to talk about this stuff. So talking about the following. So we'll just paste this real quick. And it will lead up to other topics in the future, right? In the future, like using AI for translation, for digital marketing, and etc. Right? So that's our action. I'm gonna delete this so the AI doesn't mistake this as a prompt. So the R, yeah. Anyone got any thoughts before I move on? And right now I'm gonna use the deep thinker function. I like it because sometimes when the computer is thinking, the AI tool is thinking, they do leave a lot of stuff out in the final product, but the deep think function actually puts out all of DeepSeek's thought processes. What are they looking at? What sources they're looking at? And a lot of hidden info there will be very useful when you're trying to refine the final product. Okay, R is result, or as I like to say, it's the goal. So for the goal, what they think here is that our desired outcome is to drive product awareness and sales. But I think for right now is that our desired outcome is for it to be a good lead in. This session to be a good lead into our subsequent sessions and on more specific use cases, making sure or just using AI in the workplace. Right? I guess this is our goal for now. And looking at our last thing, which is the the example. If anybody got any specific examples, I've got one in mind, but it's not the best example of maybe an organization or maybe a class that you know about who's been like doing something like this, teaching refugees or maybe teaching AI or something like that. I can't tell them to make it like AI is fun. I don't think the DeepSeek knows what AI is fun, which our current session is. Okay, I think Ian, are you there? You got any ideas? I think Ian's somewhere. But for now, what I was thinking is that earlier I was talking about the UNHCR, which is one of the human rights body under the United Nations, who is taking ownership of these AI classes. Let me just search at UNHCR Malaysia refugee classes. Let me see if that pops up. Yeah, so something like that in Malaysia, refugee and asylum seeking students are not allowed to attend government schools at any level, which I was mentioning earlier. So they have to rely on these like officially sanctioned classes by yeah, something like the UN, for example. And so yeah, so something like this would be a good example. And so what's the format to have? A good example is how the UNHCR has been hosting classes for refugees in Malaysia to help them upskill, right? So let's try to put this into the test. But before we run this prompt, I do want to include some more details just to, bolster this prompt a little bit. Because it's like I can't talk while I type. But yeah, because we have some very important details, such as this is going to be very heavy on using smartphones because of course they are refugees. So I don't want them to use any very PC heavy tools to upskill, for example, and let's just copy and this paste this. The good thing about DeepSeek is that it actually accepts a very huge prompt size compared to some of its competitors, including the fact that we want the session to be mostly doable on the smartphone. And I'll just paste the whole thing actually. Make it a bit concise. With a small assignment. Yep, a small assignment attached to the end. I think it will be a 2-hour session. I'm not too sure on this one, but 2-hour session. 1 hour of presenting and 1 hour of hands-on activities. activities. Okay. So let me put this in, and it's using deep think. I'm not gonna put up the search function
Yes,
just to
yes.
see what happens. So let it run for a little bit. Very, very long prompt. And it's gonna take a while. So you see, the thing I like about the deep think function is that there is this whole thinking blob that it gives us. So while it's thinking on how to write the final result, it tells us about its thought process, right? Or over here, it's taking into account the stuff we've written into it. So the multimodalities part with like music, images, text, right? And of course, it's taking into account of the hands-on activities that we want to do, installing the apps, making teams for exercises. Wow. Yeah, it's just looking at a bunch of stuff. The assignment should be small, as I was saying earlier. 1 hour presentation, 1 hour hands-on. That is what I said.
Bring a cloth. Cloth from
So
faster. They want me to go and bring.
let me, okay. There we go. Yeah. So hands-on, we'll have maybe a 30-minute session. We can help them, see the different ways we can install these tools into our phone. So this is still the thinking portion, by the way. It's not the final product yet, right? So let's look at here. You're thinking that it's going to be putting it into clear sections, and maybe an icebreaker would be the personality test, right? No one wants to use the personality test to see how we can tailor our lessons to, depending on the type of person you are, what sort of career paths you want to go into, and so on and so forth. So this part is where the thinking section ends, and this is where the actual prompt starts. And so it's listing some of the objectives, right? Lesson structure. First thing first, icebreaker, looking the personality test, right? We're trying to use the MBTI test, not specifically, one of these ones, but it's a good start, right? So first 15 minutes, we're gonna do a personality test, and after that, we can, talk about how AI has been used in all these different tools, all these different scenarios, even in the most common applications. If you're thinking about Google Translate, for example, that's an AI tool, right? Even if you're thinking about YouTube, for example, there's an AI algorithm out there showing you the videos that you actually want to watch, right? So you're not, yeah, you're not actually ever out of how do I say this? Out of view of AI. AI is already in your everyday thing. So I think that's a good, yeah, very good introduction to our AI set of classes. Yeah, Netflix recommendations using AI to scan your face, features for to unlock your phone, for example. And from there, another 20 minutes talking about how these specific tools that we're going to install into your phone later, right? We got multimodal AI. Okay, doing a little bit of a demo how to make music, how to make images. I don't know about video editing. I think CapCut might be a bit of a stretch for a first class. Right. So yeah, hands-on activities. We can be using it for, I don't know what, doing it for a phishing email for a first thing. I have to consult some of the others, but I think this is a good 2 hour session for a first time. It's even included this homework thing, right? So you can have, for example, ChatGPT, or maybe we'll open it up to using other tools, using DeepSeek, using Copilot to write up this 3 sentence story on your dream job, right? It actually leads into using AI in your workplace. So it's a very good poll to understand what sort of stuff they want to do. Kahoot quiz, that's questionable. I don't know if you can do it in 5 minutes. But yeah, some tips. All the tools are free, of course. Copilot, we're gonna use the free Copilot. Uh, Translation tools. Yeah, we were kind of worried that some of the Myanmar refugees were not able to use English for the purposes of us delivering the content. But from what I've heard, they have all been trained in these classes by the UNHCR to at least be instructional in English. So hopefully that's true, right? Or else we're gonna have a bad time. But yeah, we can link this to future sessions. But I think this is a pretty good thing going on. But I want to compare this a little bit to what I've tried last time. So I did it within a few days ago. So I tried the same thing, which is also the care framework, but I didn't put in all those extra details, right? So that's how I figured out that we gotta put in more how to make it more specific, because some of these tools are actually only accessible on the laptop. You can use your smartphone, so that's a bit difficult, right? So it does give you all these different thought processes. It takes into account our program, talking about teaching the business and arts under these programs. Wow, right? I didn't include that. So yeah, it gives you a summary. This is what he's gonna do, and here's the prompt, right? So it gives you the listen objectives, which is very similar to what we had earlier, right? But the structure seems pretty standard, right? There's an icebreaker. We give an introductory, like 20 minutes, talking about what AI is and how it's already been using in your everyday tools, right? But of course, the content's a bit different, right? This icebreaker is about tech in your daily life. It's more of a brainstorming session rather than a personality test. And over here, we do still have some demos, similar to what we have in the other thing. So I'm actually kind of surprised right now that the replies are kind of similar, even though our prompts are, I've handwritten them to be different, right? And instead of having the 1 hour, that's why I was specifying that I wanted to be 1 hour in the other prompt, but this one's 40 minutes. Brainstorming how we can use different tools, making descriptions for your businesses, maybe, or making a logo with Canva. I don't know. I've never tried Canva AI before, but I have to take a look. And yeah, it's even introduced a bit on ethics, which the other prompt didn't have, right? So talking about data privacy, of course, is very important. Even though the laws and regulations are still quite gray right now, I think it is a very good thing to touch upon, because copyright is still a thing, right? I don't want them to be stealing content off the internet, putting it into AI. That's pretty much it's stealing somehow, right? So what risks should I watch out for? And of course, there's a take-home assignment also, a bit of find out what are some AI tools that they can be searching up for themselves, but not much of an yeah. There's not much suggestion here on what we can put as part of our assignments, but I think it's a pretty good thing. Yeah, that's why I've been I was putting up a refining prompt here. Any homework assignments you can do, right? That is really easy. So yeah, one thing they do here, the short stories. They also mentioned that in the other prompt, maybe a recipe idea. There's also I don't know if they're cooking back in wherever they're living right now. I think they're living in dorms actually, right? Or if you want to design mini poster, I think this is a bit too much, right? A bit too much work to be designing on your phone. Or using it to translate. I think translation would be a pretty good segue. Yeah. But yeah, it also gives us a good leeway into the next sessions, how we can take this homework and talk about it in the next session. How do we turn it into the group activity, right? So I think we've got a good things to start off with. I'm gonna put this. I actually have to make a few slides after this, so I'm gonna do that some other time. But maybe I'll share how to use some of our AI tools in integrating these into slides. There's one called Gamma AI, which is very big right now, turning these documents and PDFs into full-fledged presentations. But I'll try to do that some other time. But yeah, anybody got any thoughts about our prompts today? Any feedback, or maybe if you have anything to add, actually, I would love that. I would love to credit you as part of our classes, or if you like to work with me personally, please do. But yeah, I'm gonna open the the floor now for discussion. If anybody has anything to you know any thoughts. But I'm gonna scroll through here a little bit, see what we've been working on for the past half hour. Just taking a look a little bit. Yeah, this is our prompt, and the thinking process. Yeah, maybe mention these. We did mention about these certifications, but there's an advice. Maybe just mention it as goals, but not dive too deep into it. That'd be a bit overwhelming for a first class, right? Talking about certifications. So yeah, your activities, but I think that's about it for this section. I'm happy to have shared these with you, but let me see if I can browse through the rest of our slides, see what we've missed out. Yep, we've been collaborating. We didn't get to touch on 11 labs, but I think I'll share that some other time if we have time next session. But I do want to see if we can focus on finishing, some of our lesson plans because we are getting started midway through May. Yeah. So, I want to get a bit of a framework going on. So, we have slides ready for that. And yeah, I did want to share a bit of VFX and using AI and how how tools like Photoshop has this generative filling tool, but also some other time. But yeah, I don't want to show this one. I don't know if you have any dates for this one yet, Jordan. Usually it happens one day before mine on the Tuesdays, but it is a dinner time session compared to mine, which is a lunchtime session. So do join us for this one. It usually happens one day before mine, but we haven't had any dates for this one yet, but we will figure it out. If we got anything, we do share it to the groups. Just keep an eye out, right? But this one's much more focused on Copilot specifically. I handle the more general AI. I get to be more flexible. Copilot, Microsoft Copilot session is much more laser focused, right? Onto the different Copilot tools. We're talking about Microsoft 365 Copilot. We're talking about the free Copilot. We're talking about Copilot for Azure, Copilot for security. Just a bunch of the different things under Microsoft's Copilot product line. So that's one thing to look out for. Please do join us whenever we figure out the time. Yes. And yeah, I think that's it for today. We do upload this into YouTube. If anybody, has missed out any of our past sessions, I do recommend some of our sessions, especially the last one we did last year on, when I invited Forrest, which are doctor friend, talking about diagnosis. That's a very cool session. But yeah, I will be posting our link later on after this session. So I think that will be the end of it. Any questions before I end it? I'm gonna end the recording in 1 minute. If anybody's got anything, but we're pretty much done for the day. If anybody's got final thoughts, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. Okay, yes. Oh, I didn't look at the comments, but yes, thank you so much, Ridwan. Yes. Yeah, I think you guys are good at figure out which pictures are real. I'm not. I swear, like half of it like stumped me when I first looked at it, right? But yeah, I think that's good for us today. Thanks for coming around. Stopping recording now. Hope to see you guys in the next session.